Do you want to come do it again now? Good morning again. Today I'm talking about the idea of creating an effective spiritual action plan. Now, I teach a course called online called The Foundations of Unity through Unity Worldwide Institute. And in that, I ask students to write after the 5th session, we have 7 sessions, to write about what is your spiritual plan based on some of the things that we are discussing and talking about. And I get all kinds of interesting responses. Those who aren't studying very much and aren't really following the class very well, and there are a few, very few, thank goodness, kind of write me like one paragraph, you know? My spiritual plan is to get better. My spiritual plan is to understand who I am. That's a pretty good one. My spiritual plan is to make sure I understand that God is in my life. And that's about it. And I send them a note and say, please redo it. Okay? Because what we're really looking for is an action plan, a plan that says, I am going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, or whatever it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in order to grow spiritually. And this morning I want to kind of set that up and talk about it. And there is in your bulletin notes a white page for notes, okay, that you can take. And the other thing is I want you to know that the 9 o'clock service, they were really alive this morning. They even said amen 4 or 5 times. So I don't want them, it's not a hint, but anyway. So I want to just share with you a few thoughts, okay? If we're going to create an effective spiritual action plan, why would we do that? Well, the question is, would you build a house without an architectural rendering or detailed floor plan? Well, the answer is no, I would not, because the city of Richmond says you have to have that, okay? And the reason you have to have that is so that the roof won't blow off, the foundation won't come apart, and the house cave in on you. And so that's kind of important stuff. The second question I'd say, would you fly on an airline where the planes were built at the whimsy of a creative team who just said, let's build her and see how she flies? I don't think so. If I knew about that, I wouldn't get on. So how do we accomplish our spiritual goals of practicing forgiveness instead of vengeance and retribution? Faith that is powerful and guided, and instead of a faith that is driven by fear. And faith works both ways. The choice of faith in the daily word today, it works both ways. You choose how to direct your faith. You have all the faith you need. You don't have to create faith. You don't have to look for faith. You don't have to be faith. You are faith. And so you look for that and understand that and experience that as you move forward. With a spiritual plan, you see, we can exercise unconditional love. Now, I have people say that's not possible being human, but it is. We can exercise unconditional love. We can use wisdom and live life with joy and exciting expectations. So in order to be all we can be, to experience a life with purpose and passion, and you have to be excited and be disciplined in order to express that, you have that ability to develop and maintain a spiritual path that will lead you to opening up a world filled with love, filled with self-esteem, and the power that comes from knowing the truth about yourself. The truth is that you are a spiritual being, and you guys are going to say, he's not saying that again, but I am. You are a spiritual being having a spiritual experience in the human condition. That's what's really happening. And we're going to talk about it a little later, a little more. And so as you do that and understand your life, you understand that your life will be transformed in such a way that you allow God to express through you. You are an expression of God because you've been created in the image and likeness of that which we call God. You've been created in the image and likeness of all that Spirit is. And certainly part of that is love, and it's unconditional love. Reverend Kevin Ross is a Unity minister in Sacramento, California. He's a friend of mine, and he authored a book called The Designer Life. And Kevin writes that people who live a life of spiritual design follow 5 principles. The first is a design life is a life of purpose, a life of purpose. Now, some people think, and I've had them talk to me a little bit, that purpose is some big thing out there that you've got to figure out why you're here. And it really isn't. Purpose is being on point. Purpose is allowing yourself to experience your spiritual self and allow others to experience that also. Purpose is how you show up in your family. How do I want to show up? How I show up as an employer or an employee. How I show up in my community. How I show up in my worship center. And so purpose is really, when you get down to it, is how do I best express love? How do I best express wisdom? How do I best express myself in the midst of discussions? How do I best express who and what I am and what I've come here to be? I mean, if you come here to be a mother, there cannot be any higher goal than that. How do I express myself as a mother? And so how do I express myself as a teacher? All very important concepts as we look at it. And that gives life purpose itself. Living life on point. When making decisions, you need to ask yourself this question, he says. Is the choice I'm about to make in alignment with my purpose? Now think about it. In your life, there have been times that you've made choices that were not in alignment with your purpose. Or did you find out through that choice that it's not in alignment with your purpose? Which is kind of more painful sometimes, you know? And we learn from a whole lot from it, more than what we expected maybe, and that's good. But I'm not suggesting that you live your life with that confusion, okay? And so the idea is, do I really take the time to understand the choice I'm about to make and how it affiliates or aligns me with my purpose in life? You know, there's a quote that says, every child born into the world is a new thought of God, an ever-fresh and radiant possibility. I don't care what age you are. I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 15. You are always that new possibility of life itself and of God's expressing in the universe. If you don't feel like you're that now, you can change your mind about that and make a difference through a very good and thoughtful spiritual plan. Number 2, the designed life is a spiritual life. So number 1, the designed life is a life of purpose. Number 2, the designed life is a spiritual life. What do we mean by that? And I'll come back to that phrase and break it down a little bit. I am a spiritual being having a spiritual experience in the human condition. What does it mean, I am a spiritual being? I mean, what does that mean? Is that just flighty stuff? Is that, kind of, I don't know, goofy stuff? Or are we really talking about something that really is meaningful? I happen to believe, obviously, that it is meaningful. That I can either choose to be a human being looking for a spiritual experience or a spiritual being having a human experience. That's a choice I make. And when I make that choice, I then can step into being this spiritual being by growing, by transforming, by understanding what I need to do to express this spiritual being. The second thing, I am in a spiritual experience. Now, that's the one that's hard to really believe sometimes. Everything that's happening to me as a spiritual being is a spiritual experience. Even those things in the human condition that don't feel good, we don't laugh about, we get uptight about, all of that is a spiritual experience because what we do is learn from those things. We grow from the challenges in our lives, which are really opportunities. And as we do that, we then start to step into life in a different way. And we start to understand that we really are in the human condition. That we are not the human being, but we are in the human condition. And that our experiences bring to us a sense of purpose. When we see our experiences through the Christ consciousness, you see, we see them as purposeful and not as roadblocks to our life's thoughts, ambitions, and purpose. There are no roadblocks unless we make it the roadblock. And that means that we step into a sense of separation rather than a sense of oneness. The human or the designed life is a no excuses life, and nobody likes this one. You got to get rid of blame. You got to get rid of shame. You got to get rid of the idea that they're wrong and I'm right. Or I'm wrong and you're right. And so as you do that, you do the work that's necessary to allow yourself to accept yourself as you are. Because that which created you has already accepted you and only sees you as you are. Nothing different. You are the presence of God here, expressing as the presence of God. That's what I can see in you, and that's what you can see in yourself if you allow yourself to do that. Don't let the stuff in life get in the way. You see, there are no good or bad experiences unless we make it that way. That's a choice we make. Choose faith. Faith says that I am good. Faith says that you are good. Faith says that you are created as good. And that the illusions that we believe in are what get in the way and allow us to feel separated from our source. The design life is a life of enlightenment. You see, when we are awake, we have understanding for ourselves and others. We have compassion for ourselves and others. And we are at peace while we go through that. Even when we're in a challenged situation, even when we are upset, we can still be at peace. If we allow ourselves to follow a spiritual plan, if we allow ourselves to step into that plan and be awakened. You see, we live in the joy that we have. And there's a song that used to go, the joy, joy, joy down in my heart. Didn't you even know that one? There's a joy, joy, joy down in my heart. And it's down in my heart to stay. What is there in your heart? A what? Joy, joy, joy. Thank you. You are listening. Okay. Now, the design life is a triumphant life. And I like what Kevin said about this. You know how to overcome life's challenges because you've done the work to prepare yourself for them. You expect good and abundance in your life because you are a child of good. You are a child of abundance. You are a child of prosperity. You expect and you live a life filled with possibilities. You know, there's a Possibility Thinkers Creed, and I'm not sure it goes exactly like this, that Robert Schuller wrote many years ago, and they used to say over and over again, and it's that when I come to a mountain, I will either go over it, go around it, tunnel through it, or I'll stay there and make it a gold mine. We have those choices. We don't need to run from the mountain. We don't need to say it's not there. That's really an illusion. We have to admit it's there and admit that that mountain, whatever it is, has no control over us, no power over us. Because I can go around it, I can go over it, I can tunnel through it, or I can stay there and find my gold mine of life. So, what are the keys for developing a spiritual plan of action? Number one, it ought to be written. Don't just think about it. I mean, that's, pray about it. That's a good place to start. But don't just think about it. Write it down. And if you spend the time writing it down, and I do this pretty much annually, I write down my spiritual plan for the year. Where am I, tripping over myself? What am I doing that I'm not fulfilling that which is in me to the level I need to? And as long as I'm breathing, I need to write that plan. And I would suggest that you need to also. Just because you've been in unity or you've been a spiritual being and you know that for 20 years doesn't mean that you don't have more work to do. Check your pulse. If you feel it, you got more work to do, okay? And so what we learn to do is, number one, my spiritual plan, and one that I would suggest somewhat like this, is that you start off with the idea of daily prayer. Now, how many people use a snooze alarm in the morning? I'm just curious. Snooze alarm in the morning. You know that thing you push on your button and makes it gives you another 12 to 15 minutes? Yeah, I love that. And when I get to my final one, I then lay in bed for 15 minutes. And I actually meditate and think about who and what I am. And I'm ready to get up and face the day, kind of. Then what I try to do is do a little reading and then go back to a form of meditation. Now, when I came into Unity, I was told by the minister, you have to, quote unquote, meditate an hour a day, Richard, or you won't make it. And I said, I'm not going to make it. And what I believe is that you don't expect or use a certain amount of time to be in meditation. Unless you've had a lot of experience, you can't do it in 1 minute. Now, if you've had a lot of experience, you can actually meditate for a minute and get a lot out of it and prepare yourself for something. So you spend time that's comfortable for you at the beginning. And for me, it's somewhere between 15 minutes and probably 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what's going on, what kind of time I have, what my day's going to look like. And I know when I'm finished. I just know. Because, you see, I become more alert to what's happening around me. And I start thinking about, I got to do this, that kind of thing. And I know I can sit there for another half an hour with my eyes closed and nothing's going to happen because I'm already here in the human condition. So the next thing after I spend time prayer and meditation is, and you've heard this before from me, is that what I do is I set up intentions. I do this just about every day. And when I don't, my day kind of comes apart, it seems like, in some ways. I say the wrong thing. I don't quite get in tune with where someone is. I have a meeting that doesn't go quite right. And it's because I didn't set my intention. You see, I have the power to set the intention, not of how the other person shows up, but how I show up. And what I can do about that, and how I manage that. But if I don't set the intention, I will react rather than respond. So I literally spend 20, 30, 40 minutes sometimes, especially on a really busy day, of thinking about what is my intention. And now I've got it down to what is my intention when I write something up I'm supposed to write, when I develop a plan I'm supposed to develop, when I have an idea that I need to develop. What is my intention? And it helps me move through my day. And I wish I could say I do that every day of my life. I do it most of the days, but when I don't do it, like I said, it gets kind of crazy. The third thing I don't do a lot of, but I'm going to tell you, you should. No, I don't do a lot of, and some of these things may or may not fit, but journaling. Vicki, my wife, used to be the co-minister here, thinks that journaling is it. And so if you take anything class from her or work with her, she can probably suggest that you do some journaling. And I do some occasionally, but she does it daily. And journaling can bring out for you the issues that come up during meditation. Now, you heard me say that. The issues that come up during meditation. See, some people think meditation is all just going to sit there. Oh, now I'm ready for the day. Oh, yeah. But really, meditation will bring up to you those things that have power over you that shouldn't, and you can do something about it. Deep meditation will carry you there. And so when I come out of meditation, I can journal about that. And how do I see that having power over me, and how do I get rid of that? Well, that's pretty simple. I come up with a strong affirmation to do that. And so I have a life of prayer with affirmations, and I have a life of prayer, a life where we have, let me get back here, I'm sorry, where we, goodness gracious, there we go. Okay, my mind got onto this, I apologize. Where I can do my journaling. And it is really helpful for most people, very helpful. Then the fourth thing is that I can set my goals for my growth, my spiritual growth. What do I need to learn? Where can I learn that? What kind of video or YouTube or whatever can help me do that? What kind of conference do I need to go to? What kind of conference do I want to participate in? You know, you don't have to go to them anymore. They're all over, as we know, the internet. You know, pay $65 and I'll teach you everything you ever need to know about life, and you'll walk away perfect. I went to that, and I didn't walk away perfect. No, anyway. So what we can do is we can find out what is available for our growth. We can join discussion groups. We set an intention. What kind of discussion group do I want to be with? Do I want to be with a group of people who agree with me all the time? I may need that to strengthen my belief system. Do I want to be with a group of people who disagree? in different areas, but yet can talk and understand each other and feel for each other. That's the one I like because I think that's healthy. But we do it, again, through love, as love. Do I want to take classes here at Unity or somewhere else? Do I want to have a yoga experience? And there are several different kinds you can have. One right here, Saropa Yoga. Do I want to be a drummer and have a drumming experience? When I was in El Paso, I used to go to drumming once a week, and we drummed for 2 hours. And I was worn out. But you know what? I was amazed at what would come to me during that time. On one drumming session, it was on a Monday night, I actually thought up and laid out the total message for the coming Sunday, which some people thought was pretty good. And, I was amazed by it. And it's never happened again before, but I've done it. I've done it a few times in meditation, but I did it through that drumming class. And as that drumming class continued to move forward, it brought out in me that vibration, that love. And then there's chanting. And there are other services that are available which can help us grow and help us learn and help us become all that we can become. The next thing that we need to do is in our spiritual plan is decide how I'm going to give of my time, how much I want to give. Now, if you want to give it all here at Unity of Richmond, you're welcome. But I doubt that you want to do that or need to do that. But as you saw from the announcements, we got plenty of things that you can attend. Plenty of things to do. But where do I give my time? Where do I spend my time? Where do I give of my talent? The abilities I have as a unique expression of God. And when I give of that, then I figure out through my meditation, my prayer life, by asking myself, I figure out where I should serve and how I should serve. And then, how do I give of my tithe? How do I make my commitment to give on a regular basis? And where am I going to give that? And you make that decision. And if you don't give a penny to Unity Richmond, then you should give somewhere. I want to say that for you. We'd like for you to give a part of it here, obviously, but the important thing is you give with intention, understanding that you're not giving to be blessed. You're not giving to get something back. You're giving because you just want to give. And that's the only way that we should really give, and it benefits us. And then the other thing we can do is as we move along, we can keep track of our feelings. There's one feeling that's fear. The other feeling is love. Am I living in love or am I living in fear in this given situation? Am I acting as love or am I acting as fear in a given situation? Which is it? And when I recognize it's fear, all I have to do is change my mind. Because I can step from fear into love anytime I desire to do so, because love is the most powerful force in this world. And the last thing there on a spiritual plan is commitment. The word commitment. What good is a spiritual plan without commitment? It's not any good whatsoever. It's just an exercise in futility. You see, with a spiritual plan, you can create a designed life, and you are responsible for that. That has purpose, that creates a spiritual foundation, that is living life excuse-free, and that you're enlightened, a life filled with wonder, and a triumphant life where you and your family, your career, and your community are all winners. President Theodore Roosevelt said, "Power undirected by high purpose spells calamity." And high purpose, but of itself, is utterly useless if the power to put it in effect is lacking. So, my recommendation, as I happen to think Roosevelt's would be, is build and follow a spiritual plan. And you will live, I'll guarantee you, you will live a life of purpose filled with passion. You will be alive, you will be excited, you will know that every day you step into is a day of growth, of opportunity, and of compassion. Thank you.